this our first ever state conference. We've had our welcome from Barbara, and it's now about presenting our Bowls Victoria Strategic Plan for 2018-2022, of which you all have a copy. And what we'll be doing with this is I'll be talking through the strategic plan, but unpacking a few of the items inside of that strategic plan. We want to give you an idea of what we think is necessary to take the sport forward in this next period of 2018 to 2022. The cover of our strategic plan says a lot about the future of our sport. We wanted to have something dynamic on the front cover of our strategic plan. We've been able to capture people having or doing something which we think should be associated to our sport, and that's having fun. Because in order to be able to break into new areas of participation and connectedness with community, we believe that one of the best things that bowls does offer, as well as the bowling side of things and the friendship side of things, is an opportunity to have fun. And if we aren't having fun and promoting fun as an alternative for people as this sport participation activity, we've got hundreds of other pastimes that people would then overlook if they didn't get the one thing out of it that they want to get, which is enjoyment. So what's it all about, the 2018 and the 2022 strategic plan? It's about establishing a clear vision for the future of our sport. We want to direct and guide bowls on an exciting path that has its focus on the future. We still want to be able to provide traditional core activities, as I used to refer to, our meat and three veggie of pennant, championships, tournaments, social bowls. But what other offerings can we give to people to attract them to want to be involved in our sport? And more importantly, to engage with our local clubs, because this strategic plan aims to deliver an outline of how we can support clubs, divisions and regions to make sure that the sport that we are delivering is consistent. But it's also attracting different people to our game. And we want to strengthen connections with the wider community, because all sports are aiming to grab their place in the market, and what we've got to do is have things that are relevant to engage with people, tap into new markets, get new people involved in the sport, because you only get to know about who wants to be involved in the sport by people giving you that feedback. Remember last year at our region meetings, we workshopped 3 items. What were the participation initiatives we've heard of? What were the things that were preventing that? And what could we do to encourage it? So the feedback, as Barbara mentioned before, that was gained from those meetings, and there was quite a lot of it. I think we had well over 100 sheets of butcher paper, fish and chip paper, that we got those comments off, compiled those into a document, and that was our review document of actually going out and asking those questions face to face with the people that it most affects. So the vision of Bowls Victoria to go forward is more people connected to bowls. It's a fairly simple message, but it's one that's reinforced in the National Strategic Plan as well, for all Australians to engage with bowls during their lifetime. We want people to be able to experience the sport and make a decision that's personally theirs, of whether they wish to be a full-time converted to pennant, championships, tournaments, social bowls, the whole gambit of what we were all bitten by the bowls bug years ago, or the people that want to be just socially connected to the sport and actually make a connection with their local community through their sporting bowls club. We see opportunities for bowls that are quite different to other sporting clubs, in that we're a sport that is and should be welcoming, friendly, giving all those opportunities for people to experience our sport, but also to have a sense of belonging to a community club. And bowls clubs are probably the safest and friendliest venues to be associated with in that aspect. That's the front cover of the Bowls Australia strategic plan for 2018-2022. Once again, people having fun. And they've titled their strategic plan Bowls Unleashed. So they're virtually saying that it was time to take the shackles off, stop just promoting certain aspects of the sport and open it up to the entire sporting fraternity and public fraternity. I think it's quite effective in the way it's promoted, and the information that's inside that document is part and parcel of how we've used some of that to formulate our strategic plan. So there's connection. We're actually complementing what the national body is wanting to promote for the sport. So we're not doing a lot of this stuff just off our own bat. There is some things that will be relevant to our state body, but we're connected as a sport right across the country. And that's the focus that we want to gain, because we know traditionally across our sport that membership is what has been in decline for a number of years. We've got a graph that refers to that shortly. And it's how the sport has actually gone forward in the area of social participation, which is keeping the sport vibrant and alive. So our mission, the reason we exist, what we want to promote, what we want to do, is to grow and support the sport of bowls through clubs and their communities. Once again, that connectedness with people and their local area, because there'll be many opportunities for clubs to engage with their community that they probably never even thought of. But now is the time where we have to be getting traction in these areas, because if we don't, we will miss the boat. And there's a big societal change that will come over the Australian population very shortly, because we're getting older. It won't be long where there'll be more older people than there will be younger people. Bowls Australia's common purpose for the Australian bowls community to work collaboratively, probably a better word there is together, to get more Australians engaging with bowls in meaningful and positive ways. Now, whether that's by, as we said, the traditional formats, or whether it be through social interaction, or whether it's just being a connected person to a community club. The benefits of that in itself are untold, because there are a lot of people who don't have the ability to socially connect with others. And what we're saying is that a bowls club would be the ideal place for those sort of people who do feel alone to try and break into the connectedness of their local community. To provide opportunities for more people to take part more often and to stay involved with bowls as social or competitive players, coaches, officials, spectators or volunteers. So there's a wide range of areas there that people can actually form a connection to the sport. In a number of sports, I know that people enjoy their sporting life as a volunteer official, like whether that be an umpire, a judge or referee or whatever, and that is their life. They don't necessarily have their playing capabilities, but they love to dedicate their time to the volunteering, because what does volunteering do? Provides opportunities for others to participate. And that's what we're talking about here. It's all about generating all the ideas and collective thoughts we've got for the future about providing opportunities for people to participate, but also feel connected. So there's a message there just inside the front cover, and our vision and mission, which are quite well stated. This document is only small in number of pages because we had a previous plan which was very heavy on detail and probably was too much detail. This one is addressing what we feel are the most relevant issues relating to the future of our sport. We've also listed our values, what we are actually going to be judged by, what we're going to be committed to, and more importantly, how we're going to go about the actual delivery process of this, because it's not something that just myself or the Bowls Victoria staff are going to be responsible for, or the board. We want ownership of this by everybody, because it's our plan for our sport. It's not my plan for my sport, it's our plan. So we want everybody to have a sense of ownership of the plan, and what we're trying to do here is to explain to you how we want to roll that out. So our core values will guide us. It'll be in developing a positive and respectful culture for Bowls Victoria, or for Victorian bowls, our community, and one that is designed to assist in how groups communicate and work together to achieve the desired outcomes we want to get. So these core values are built around 5 basic principles of being adaptable, inviting, unified, supportive and efficient. Now I'm going to unpack each of these individually, and I'll talk a little bit about each one and how we're going to direct our energies towards focusing on these 5 items so that we can actually deliver the plan that we want. There they are on page 3, I think, of the plan. So how can we be more adaptable? We've got to listen more. Hence, that's why we've got everybody in the room today, so you're hearing this and getting the understanding that this is what we're committed to as an organisation, as Bowls Victoria, but more importantly, what you gather from today in how we start to promote the sport in the positive light that we have to take it forward. We want to survey the clubs and the participants to get their thoughts, like we did last year when we went to the region meetings and surveyed the attendees at the region meetings who were representative of our members, the clubs, also the divisions and the regions who deliver. Because it's no use us having a set of ideas that don't get engagement from all the key stakeholders in the sport. The 42,500 affiliated members through their club membership, our 517 clubs, and our division and region network. How we can communicate more effectively and more widely, how we can cast a wider communication net. Because the more people that get the information firsthand, the less reliance there is then on getting it secondhand and getting the messaging confused. And then other people spin on the communication. It's about embracing change and the opportunities that change might bring. And we know that the organisation, as Bowls Victoria, has undergone a lot of change through an amalgamation process and how we address the relevant issues that are around today, because the whole sporting landscape around not just Victoria, but around Australia, but around the world has changed in the last 10 years. And we've always got to be prepared to operate a little bit outside what we think is the norm. It's about taking chances, calculated, and mitigating the risk against those things not coming off. But we can't keep doing the same old, because guess what? We get the same results. Nothing will change. We've got to be prepared to meet the changing needs of an increasingly diverse society. It's got a lot of options available for it to consider. People have got such a wide range of choice, and they are going to choose the things that resonate with them most effectively and where they get the best bang for their buck. So there's an opportunity here to think a little bit more outside the traditional square on what we can actually do to stimulate connectedness with people to get them to want to be engaged with our sport. So there's our current structure of bowls. We've got World Bowls sits right up the top of the ladder, and we've got Bowls Australia under that, and to the side we've got all the state associations. We've got Bowls Vic, Bowls Victoria regions by 16, divisions by 25, and there's 9 regions that have divisions, 517 bowls clubs who are members of Bowls Victoria, and then our club members, 42,500 of them. And they are really the foundation of our sport. Because without the member numbers and association to our sport, we don't have anything. Anybody disagree with the way that that's put out? Beautiful. So here we get to the interesting part of what we're talking about and why we've understand why as a sport we have to have some change. Because if we look at this graph, and many of you may have seen this before at previous presentations, but this one is as recent as 2017. We're back in 1980. How many people in the room here were bowling back in 1980? So there's a handful of us. Back in 1980, there was such a thing called waiting lists at bowls clubs. That's a thing of the past. Actually, what did happen in that time is if you didn't want to be on a waiting list, you went and started up your own club. And I'll talk a little bit more about that tomorrow, but that's what happened. People started up a club because they were too impatient for a waiting list, and a lot of clubs since 1980 have actually fallen off the radar. Most of the newer ones are still in existence, but a lot of the older ones are no longer there. And that's across the state, that's metropolitan and country, so it's not just isolated to certain areas, it's statewide. But if you have a look at the number, in 1980 there were over 400,000 people registered for bowls in Australia. So they were the people that were affiliated to play bowls anywhere and everywhere. But if you have a look what happened during the 80s, the 90s, a little bit of a plateau in the early 2000s, but then there was a reintroduction of that decline in traditional membership. So the sport has actually gone from 452,000 members, is now down at about 182,000 members. So it's been a big drop over nearly a 40-year period. I'm celebrating my 40th year in bowls this year. 1978 I started, and there's been a lot of change over that 40 years. I can remember playing my first game of pennant and everybody was wearing a tie and a cardigan. Brown shoes. If you're in a Duke and not wore his blazer to play bowls. And we had the advent of coloured clothing, which was going to be the death of the sport, and then the advent of coloured bowls, which was going to be a further nail in the coffin. So what's happened? The sport's still there. And some of those things, funnily enough, have attracted people to play. There's a bit of colour, there's a bit of vibrancy, there's a bit of fun involved. But since 1980, the decline in membership has been 270,000 registered members. So think of the financial impact that that's had on the sport over that period of time. That's a big loss in revenue to a sport. Huge. This is one of my favourite topics in regard to trying to promote a positive image for our sport. How can we be more inviting? What are some of the things that we can do to be more inviting? Portraying the most positive image of bowls that we can. Because we don't want to focus on negatives, we want to be as proactive, positive as we can in trying to get people engaged into our sport. Certain sports do that very, very well. It's now time for bowls to adopt some of those core principles and introduce those into how we are perceived by the people that we're trying to connect with. Second sentence says, how can bowls become more welcoming and entice public interest both competitively and commercially? Because we need both of those things underpinning us. I see a lot of people writing. Don't write. This presentation will go live on the Bowls Victoria website, and also on the Bowls Victoria website will be a video of this conference, as I said before, so we can play that back to the public. So I'd rather you focus your attention on the screen than writing. How can we build our community profile? Because this is very important for our sport to be able to adopt and be seen by people as being good community citizens, our bowls clubs offering opportunities for people to connect, but more importantly being behaved, putting our best foot forward, not tolerating any of the the antisocial stuff that has had a little bit of a common occurrence theme over recent times. We'll touch on that tomorrow. And more importantly, how can Bowls Victoria assist? Because we're seen as a mechanism to try and assist everybody in trying to drive this change forward. Because what we can do together, that's the regions and divisions and the clubs and all the individual members of the clubs, what can we do together to bring more people to bowls and clubs and actively engage with them? So how do we make that inviting? How do we appeal to people to get them through the door? Because getting them in the door is hard. That's one of the hard parts, but the hardest parts are keeping them and making them feel that they're valued. So how can we effectively engage with the communities we wish to attract? It's probably not a preferred method of engagement. That's a very famous photo out of the Sydney Morning Herald a number of years ago, about 40 years ago. Now, is that lady ordering 2 beers, saying she's got 2 shots, or telling you where to go? But it's a little bit of humour, but if you showed that to people as a method of engagement, or you're using that to promote your sport, it sends a lot of mixed messages, doesn't it? So we really want to make sure that we're sending a proper message to people we're trying to engage with. I love that photo. It reminds me of a lady I first played mixed bowls with, and she didn't say we were holding 2 shots. We look at how we've progressed as well in how we engage. That's a fairly basic Barefoot Bowls Day flyer, but one thing I did find with it was the relevance of the date, on Sunday the 6th of August 2017. And it goes through and tells you a whole lot of gobbledygook, and it says down the bottom, any inquiries, contact Herb. But there's no phone number for Herb, no email address, so you've got to go to the Ulysses Redcliffe branch. Now, Scarborough Bowls Club is in Perth, and if you didn't know where it was, it says there the corner of Scarborough Road and Sunnyside Road, Scarborough. Sign on and practice from 9 o'clock. The round robin tournament starts at 10. It's encouraging, but it's not inviting. Not necessarily the best way to promote your activity, but it's a start, it's something, but how can we improve it? So here's an inviting invitation put forward from, this is Deer Park Bowls Club in Melbourne, and this flyer has been, I got this off the internet. This was done on for December 2015, so the better part of nearly 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago. But look at what it's got. It's promoting barefoot bowls, so they've got some bare feet on the side. They've got some colour in it, and they're also advertising what they're actually going to be doing as part of the other opportunities that are connected to the event. They're going to do giveaways. They're only going to do it for $7 a person. That's highway robbery. That's nearly theft by the people that are coming to do it, because for $7, you're also going to get I think there's a raffle ticket, free raffle ticket, a free barbecue and a raffle ticket, and barefoot bowls. So you get an activity, you get a raffle, and you get a feed. Very encouraging. It's saying that it's welcoming singles, couples and families. So what's it doing? It's automatically appealing to everybody, isn't it? So that's what we've got to consider in how we make our sport more inviting. And it starts every Wednesday at 7 o'clock. Here's another novel approach of a barefoot bowls night. Come and try for free. Tuesday the 5th of July. Bring the family and give bowls a go. Bare feet or flat-soled shoes. I love this next line. No formalities, no rule books, no whites. So what's that saying straight away? No, it's saying that there's no real regimentation about how it's going to be conducted. It's going to be basic community connection, because we're not going to expect everybody to come to a bowls club in whites, and we're not going to want them to play by the rules, because it's too hard to learn the rules. There's people that have been playing this game for 30 years that don't know the rules. There's only a couple of things missing on this though. That there's no contact details, but maybe it was cut off for the internet. But I love that kids eat free with a paying adult. And they have a balloon artist from 5:30. I don't know if you've been to Bunnings on a Saturday morning lately, but the hardest working person at Bunnings is the face painter or the balloon blower-upper. So they're the sort of things that connect families then back to a community engagement with our sport. Here's a different slant. I'm just going to show 3 of these. But this is one from a club on the Central Coast, up at the entrance. And they're saying that feel the soft green grass under your feet and enjoy the amazing experience of lawn bowls. Bare feet, coloured bowls, a little bit of information in there which isn't too much, but also, importantly, they're connecting through Twitter, Facebook and Instagram, which are our social media platforms which nearly everybody is on in this day and age, especially the people that we're trying to get connected with, because it's instantaneous information. Our next value that we would like to discuss is how can we be more unified? How can we further build confidence and strengthen relationships amongst clubs, divisions and regions to achieve the best possible outcomes for our sport? So it's about open, honest and frank conversation with everybody. That's what we're all about this weekend here. And having the conversation about what are the things we think we can do just to build those opportunities up to improve those relationships. We've got to reinforce a belief that bowls can prosper into the future. You hear a lot of negativity around the future of the sport because people talk about the traditional offerings that we have and see those as all that matters about how the sport is progressed into the future. And quite frankly, we've got to be a little bit more flexible in how we think what we offer to people connects with them. We're undertaking some research at the moment into that aspect, and it'll be pleasantly surprising to get the feedback on all the different initiatives that we're trying to get an understanding of whether they're worth pursuing or whether they're going to connect with the wider community. We want to have that conversation and engage in that because we need to align our focus. Everybody has to be on the same page. And we've really got to take a new, novel approach to this, everyone. We've got to form one team. We're one sport and we've got to be one team in how we go about it. It's not what I can do, it's not what Barbara can do, or what the board can do, or what the Bendigo Campaspe Bowls region can do, or the Snake Gully Bowling Club can do. It's about what we can do together. This is one thing that I really like to drive home. We've got to be respectful of the past, because that's our history. And we've got to respect our history and respect those that created that history. But there's a far greater need now to be directing all of our energies into the future. What's the legacy we're going to leave for the next group of people that want to become connected to bowls? And if we're focused on this in a positive way, that we want to leave the sport in a better place than what we found it, that's the way that the sport can improve. It's as simple as that. It's not really rocket science. Which leads me to my next comment. I was searching around for something to look for how change had been adopted and implemented over time. I thought the most appropriate one was the one I found from NASA, the National Aeronautical Space Agency, and their Office of Education in July 1958. That was the year I was born, July 1958. It was all about shaping the future. And they were launching new endeavours to inspire the next generation of explorers. And we all know what happened later. 11 years later, man was on the moon. And it was probably something that everybody thought in their wildest dreams that they would never ever think possible. But you know how it happened? It happened because there was a vision. It happened because there was a mission or a commitment to want to do something. And then the really, really smart people all got together and put their heads together and came up with a way to do it. And not only did they land on the moon, they also brought them back. That was probably the hardest part. Getting them there was easy, getting them back was probably the hardest part. But having that vision, having that preparedness to be taking some calculated risks, and then we all knew what happened after that. And Henry Ford pretty well summed it up. And we knew what he did. He just wanted to make cars, and you know, the old saying, if you can't afford a Dodge, dodge a Ford. Coming together is a beginning. Keeping together is progress. But working together is the success. So what we have to do is work together to get this success in the delivery of what our new strategic plan is all about. Being supportive. How can we embrace the passion within our sport and share ideas? I've got a secret. You know, a lot of people in bowls clubs will tell you, I've got a secret. Well, if you've got a secret and it's about the sport, for God's sake, tell everybody else, because you might be doing something that everybody else is missing out on, and then we're not progressing. We're not trying something different. And sharing the experiences and the workload, that's for the benefit of our clubs, divisions and regions, and the participants and volunteers. Because what we said earlier, it's about everybody. It's about the whole picture for everyone to be engaged and involved. And what can Bowls Victoria do to assist and provide more support at all levels of administration of the sport? We see our role as being helpers, assisters, guiders. Bowls Victoria is actually the guardian of the sport in our state. And as the guardians, sure, we have to be protective of some things, but it doesn't say we can't be progressive and inventive in other areas. And that's what we want to do, because we see the need for that to take the sport forward. And how can we further recognise and celebrate those contributions that everybody makes to bowls? So it's about telling all those good stories. There's always something positive that's happening, but there's too few people finding out about it. So if you've got a good story to tell us, let us know, we can get it out. We only ever seem to hear about the bad things, and they're the hardest ones to deal with. It's still publicity, but it's not really the sort of publicity that you want. So all those good stories that are out there and good experiences that people have had. Jimmy Stapleton, City of Echuca Bowling Club, turned 104. I went to their 100th anniversary of their club. So Jimmy had been around longer than the club. Tell the story. Let us know. Everybody around the state may connect with that. There may be other people out there that have got a similar story to tell. And it's about featuring those things to make people think and understand that they're important to the sport. Everybody is important in our eyes. And what are the tools that clubs, divisions, regions need? We're going to unpack this a little bit further tomorrow, but what are some of those resources that you feel you need to assist you in us progressing further? Because there's a lot of things that are available that probably people don't know a lot about. So if we can assist in that process, that will even help us further as well. Because it's all about moving forward together. That bottom line there, how can we all move forward together? We can all move forward together by one easy thing: communicating more and more effectively. So we're all part of this one engine. Probably a bigger cog is VV. I didn't design this came off PowerPoint, so I just copied this. But we're turning a wheel, a cog that then turns the divisions and the regions. And the clubs, maybe I should have got that around the other way, and had the clubs as the big wheel, because there's a hell of a lot more of them than what there are with the other bodies. But we can share ideas. No problem's too big or too small for us to overcome through having that willingness to support one another and work together. I think that's a key thing in all of this, our ability to be able to put differences to one side, but work together for the betterment of the sport. Our focus needs to be on helping and assisting one another. In some instances, we can't do it ourselves. You can't do it yourselves. So there's got to be a combined effort. Efficiencies. Everybody's, in this day and age, trying to do things more efficiently. less costs, less hours, less input. But how can we best manage the current resources that are available to us carefully and streamline our activities and structures to maximise our governance and service quality to those playing bowls? It's not taking shortcuts. What it is dealing with specific items, but addressing them on a needs basis. Sure, there's going to be some very important things that have to be addressed, and there's going to be some not so important things that have to be addressed, but we've got to actually get those in the proper order. We want to be able to focus on the goals and the objectives of this strategic plan. And we'll drill into those very, very shortly, because these are going to be what we will be reporting on. I'm not going to talk about how nice the sandwiches were at a specific meeting or at a specific day, or it was great to catch up with the lady selling the books on the trading table at the gala day. They're all important aspects of it, but they're not the key focus items that we have to take the sport forward with. Working together to resolve the issues and taking joint ownership of matters, not sort of just getting an issue to deal with and saying, we'll dump that on Bowles Vic, because we need to understand what it is if we get involved in it. So it's about working together to resolve all these matters and get favourable outcomes where possible. Not getting sidetracked on those irrelevant issues, because they really shouldn't be what is directing the organisation strategically. They could be possibly operational, which could be dealt with through the operations, but they don't maintain a strategic focus for us going forward. We need to be focused on delivering the best available service we can to the members. And we are committed to doing that. So, under our purposes in our constitution with Bowls Victoria, it states that Bowls Victoria is an entity by which bowls in Victoria can be encouraged, conducted, promoted and administered, and be the governing body of bowls in Victoria. I think it's the first or second one of our purpose statements in our constitution. And they're the layers of our, as we showed before, with Bowls Victoria, regions, divisions, clubs. We're all connected to Bowls Vic, but we're also interconnected. And some of the things that we would think each layer would be responsible for would be, we'll start at the club level, but obviously that they're encouraging the playing of the championships, they provide opportunities to play, general information to their members, they'll connect to Bowls Victoria because they want clearances for their members, they'll want some services, and they'll also want to tell you about some club member issues that they have. And that's fine. The divisions, they've got inter-division challenges where they play amongst themselves in competition. They have junior development squads, coaching and officiating, their local pennant, and all of their other events that they conduct as well. And then they're providing, up into the region structure, things like the regions that don't have divisions, running their pennant competition, their events, coaching and officiating, escalated issues from divisions. So division people will take things to their region boards so that the whole region is all over the issues that they may have. And they're also involved with issues that work towards administering the sport as well. And the direct connect from us back through the regions is that if we're wanting to do something and undertake something, that we'll consult with the regions, because they're going to be the immediate reports out in the bowls landscape. So it's about understanding that there are lines there where we can all communicate by, but it's what the level of importance is of each issue or item. Should it come to us, or should it go to somebody else? Or is it a case that people get in touch with us because they want to get an opinion to play against the other? Which is quite all too often what the case is. Everybody's looking for an opinion so that they can then, or legal advice, to take that back and play that to try and get a favourable outcome for themselves. A lot of people won't accept the initial opinion from us because it's not what they want to hear. So they go around, they class as doctor shopping until they get the prognosis that they want to hear, which quite sometimes is not accurate. Does anybody have any comment on that they would like to pass? Because I think I've resonated with everybody on that. Hello, Isabel. I'm looking at you. You're laughing. Yes?
I reckon there is one way. I mean, you sort of jokingly touched on that screen a couple of pages back. Culturally, you suggested that the biggest culture maybe should be the yellow down clubs. I think it was actually a fourth way. I think one of the reasons why we maybe struggle a little bit is because that fourth layer is actually the participants, all the members of all the players, everyone pulled up the participants in the game. I think we actually, rather than sort of looking for the philosophy of how to address service and members, we also should look at how can they members best serve the game. And I'm not too sure that we're necessarily getting enough productivity out of participants back into the body of the sport. So I think that's a layer that really probably needs to be expanded upon.
Yep. I'll take that on board. Connectedness of the people that we're trying to get involved, and those that are involved, what more can they give back to the sport? Is that what you're saying? Yep. No, it's okay. I appreciate the comment. It's good. That's what we're all about. It's all about trying to offer different suggestions and different ways we can look at things and how we can focus differently on who we deliver and how we deliver. So a little bit of reporting back on getting into some figures here. You know that we all undertake a national census, which is done on an annual basis. It may not need to be necessarily done on an annual basis, but it just gives us a picture of how that material is gained and what purpose it's used for. And you'll see there, I know it'll be fairly hard to read this from the back, but Victoria, I'm happy to say, we had 208 of our 500, it says 21 there, but it's 517. I'd like to know where those other 4 clubs are. That we had a 40% response rate to the national census. And that 40% of those 208 clubs gives the people that get that material, the stats, to do a little bit of extrapolating with figures, to give us an understanding of how the actual sport is performing on a national basis, and we take the state numbers out of that and we reflect on those to see how we're measured against the rest of the bowling landscape around the country. So of the 640 responses from 1,873 clubs around Australia, about a third of the clubs around Australia respond. And this may be information too that's gathered through the regional bowls managers, who may ask for this information if you undertake an interview with them. We can tell a little bit of a story about how the sport is performing. So in the areas of participation, and we've got 3 areas there highlighted of participation, which are our playing members. So since 2010, where we had roughly 234,000 people registered to bowl, in 2017, there were 169,000. So you can see that traditional decline in playing membership has resurfaced, and it's a very, very slow and painful curve. If it was a rabbit, you wouldn't want to be killing it. The area of pennant and other competition, in 2010, 350,000 people roughly engaged. Down to 2017, it's 204,000. So there's been 140,000 less participations in that area. But have a look at the green line, which is social participation, where it started off in 2010 with 169,000, and where we are now in 2017 of 475,000 roughly, 466 it is there, shown in actual number. And what it says, it's that in 2010, social participation was beginning to establish itself as a preferred option for people considering bowls as a recreational activity. But by 2012, which is down here, it had surpassed playing membership, and it wasn't that far behind pennant and other competition. And in 2014, the number had nearly doubled, and that in a little more than 5 years. So in 2014, we had 380,000 social participations as against 169 in as little as 5 years. So you can see that one of the key drivers for our sport has been social participation. Who have been the major beneficiaries of that? Can anybody tell me? Of social participation? Absolutely. And guess what? Has Bowls Victoria tapped into that? No. We've left that alone. We've left that with the clubs. For the clubs to try and maintain viability and improve their bottom lines. So all the work that they've done, which the clubs have done, we may have assisted with providing some information on how to do it, or may have been there for a hands-on involvement in doing it, but most of that has been hard work, blood, sweat and tears from club volunteers and club people. Yes?
That's fine that you've got that participation, but is there any figures to what the retention rate of these people?
The retention? Well, no, there isn't, because unfortunately, as a sport, we don't do a lot of follow-up on that part of how many people have either been transitioned into full membership, but quite obviously, not a lot have, because the traditional membership model is in decline still. And I know that every club that puts effort into obtaining new members, what do they want them for? Absolutely. What don't they want to do? Play Bennett. So we look at it and we think, okay, what are we doing? Are we flogging a dead horse? We've got the traditionalists that want their pennant. I'm only too happy to keep providing that. But what we have to do is provide other offerings that keep these people connected in our sport. And that's what it's all about. Because they're telling us, and they have told us over time, that they can't commit to what has been our traditional offerings. Because they're time poor, they've got other priorities that they want to do. And that's what the part of societal change has been over those 40 years that I refer to, that is where Saturday afternoons used to always be knock off at 12, play your sport Saturday afternoons, or play your midweek pennant during the week. It doesn't occur now because society has changed. We're going well, I would say, in the social participation area. And that could be a contributing factor for keeping clubs well, keeping them alive. Those that aren't connecting in that area, guess what? They're probably in trouble. So how do we get all those clubs engaged and benefiting? Ian?
Graeme, unfortunately I think with the social pennant or social games, it's fairly limited to the clubs to actually get access to that. However, speaking from South Gippsland, there's probably 3 clubs out of our 16 which would actually make any money out of social bowling, because they're not in an area where there's a lot of people engaged in that period. Tourist areas, we fill up their barefoot bowls over summer, and corporate bowls, most of us who have corporate bowls will probably put in another green and fill it all the time. But unfortunately, it's only a very selected area, I think, which really makes benefit.
It's not a one-size-fits-all solution. We're well aware of that. There's no silver bullet for this, but what there is taking ideas and adapting them to your circumstances. And there is always an opportunity that exists for something. Trying something is better off than just giving up and doing nothing, because that's how you get the result of clubs then falling off the landscape. And that's what we don't want to see happen. We want to have and build that strong, viable club network. And it's not the amount of people that you have in your club, it's whether your club is active in all the areas that it should be. You can have a very, very strong and viable club with 30 members. You can have another one with 200 members that might not be viable at all. So it's all about what you offer, how you encourage people to become connected, and what did I say before about it? Making it fun and enjoyable for people. It's not about trying to drag people along to something where they don't like it. So having the offerings, having the... Yep. Yep. What they're called the fading sports stars. They're the people who enjoyed their time as footy players, tennis players, hockey players, and they're still wanting to have a competitive outlook to play sport. The emergency services, but yeah, absolutely. They're like us. They've got a life after work, and they want to do certain things to enjoy their social pastimes. Look, there's so many ways in which our sport can connect with the community, and these people are all members of our community.
We found by targeting the emergency services personnel that they got competitive with one another.
Absolutely.
Barefoot bowls.
You have a game of bowls with the police, the fireys and the ambos, and we'll see who can virtually survive it, because they all try to outdrink one another before they try to outplay one another.
We found that fairly beneficial.
Yep. So there's something that, everybody's got that ability to be able to connect through that avenue, emergency services.
Graham, you're showing us the national figures.
Yep.
How does Victoria compare?
Okay, I'm just about to, very good, you're one step ahead of me, very good. This is participation by region, because this is done on a national scale and wound down to regions as well. 4 Victorian regions are recorded in the top 15 regions around Australia for their positive social participation numbers and to pennant and other competitions in their ratio to those. So on top, and this is only done by the fact that these people have actually responded to the census. So if you see your number up here and you think, oh, we've done more than that, well, you haven't reported it. So if you don't report it, we don't know about it, or the sport in general doesn't know about it. But we've got Central Victoria sitting on top of the National Register there, where they've got 5,807 people involved in pennant and other competitions, but nearly 30,000 people involved through social participation, Jack Attack and schools programs, which is a pretty good return. Total participants playing bowls in that area of Victoria is over 35,000. Well done, Central Victoria. We've got 12 remaining Victorian regions, and that's the 12, that's 16 regions, so the remaining 12 are well placed inside the top 62 identified regions in Australia. So there we've got Central Victoria right at the top. We come down and we've got West Coast, who are 4th, nearly 30,000 people engaged, Sandbelt, 18,000, and Eastern Ranges, 14,500. We go to the next slide. We've got Murray Mallee, 11,000, Wimmera, 11,000, Geelong, 10,000, Strzelecki, 10,000, Yarra, 10,000. Strange figure, Yarra. The reason being, we've got one club alone that says they have 30,000 people go through their club a year playing social bowls, but they're not recorded. So wouldn't it be great to have that figure up there as well? Because that then would boost Victoria's claim to being the socially engaged participant state in Australia. Gippsland, 10,000. Well done, Gippsland. Peninsula Casey, just short of 10,000. And we get down here, we've got Ovens and Murray, 6,000. Northern Gateway, 6,000. Metropolitan West, 6,000. And we get right down here, we've got Central Golden Murray, 4,000 and a bit. I'm happy to say we've got no one in what I'd class there as the danger area. The yellow area is the danger area. Very, very small numbers from some very, very big places. Actually, we've got a whole graph here now in regard to 2017 experiences of 4 times or more that people have. So there's your return. A person asked before about what's the gauging of the return on this. This is about how many people have visited their venue 4 times or more and participated. Quite happy to report there's Victoria sitting on 330,000 total experiences, with social activities judged in men and women. So it's broken down into sex. And we've also got training activities there in clinics, which may have been put on for school kids and the like, and special groups. So 702,000 across Australia, we believe that figure is over 1 million because people aren't reporting. So when you are given the census to do, please respond to it because we want to tell the actual story and have the correct numbers without guessing it. Okay, on to the first of our goals of our strategic plan, and it's to promote participation. We want to create and implement initiatives that grow participation involves inclusive of all, and that's a key element of what we've got to take the sport forward with. It's not just going to be what works for Anglo-Saxon men between 25 and 50. We need to connect with everybody in the community. So inclusive of all means for everybody, irrespective of race, ability, whether it's a disability. It's about providing opportunities for everyone because then we can say we're a truly inclusive sport. That's on, I think, page 4 of the plan. So about promoting participation. What can we do to further promote the active and competitive participation in our sport? We've all got to commit to the priorities that are part of the plan. We're working towards producing an available suite of inclusive participation options that will provide something for everyone, and it will also offer opportunities to attract more people to their local bowls club. Because as we said before, what happens if we keep offering just pennant championships and tournaments? We're not connecting, are we? So what are the other alternatives that we've got? There has been direct consultation with the public and the traditional member base on what some of these offerings may look like. What are the ones that will connect with people? What are the ones that are potentially going to connect with people? And what are the ones you wouldn't even worry about doing at all? Because we look at the cost, when they'd be available, who's going to run them. And this work is currently being undertaken by specialists in the field who are Gemba Sports Marketing. Now, how many people here know about the Big Bash League in cricket? The Big Bash League in cricket was a product that was put forward to the sport of cricket by Gemba Sports Marketing because they went out and surveyed the public. So they have good traction in this area of understanding what the community needs are for sport. And the early progress that we've had on the work that we've been doing with Gemba is that we've had a very, very good response from the overall bowling community who are engaged in this as well as the research that they've done with just the general members of the public. So these are the people that aren't connected to the sport, but it's wide and it's ranging around the whole state. The number of connections that they've made is, whilst it's not in the tens of thousands, they can gauge the community feel based on the numbers that they get from the responses to their surveys. How many people in the room here did the survey? Yep. And if you put down in the survey that you were a bowler, you would have got a certain set of questions. And if you put down another connection, whether you are a parent or a child or whatever, it would have taken you to a whole different set of circumstances to respond in the survey. So there's been a general ability to grab a wide range of set of views on that. We're seeking to empower and assist clubs, the divisions and the regions to provide the attractive participation offerings to connect with the wider community. And whilst keeping those traditional formats alive, you may have heard different things. You know, the old Bowls grapevine works overtime when there's a suggestion of change and Bowls Victoria is going to do this and Bowls Victoria is going to do that. And it's just noise. It's nothing really. But it's upsetting that it gets a rather large push behind it in some areas in regard to, oh, they're going to take pennant off us. You know, they're going to do this, they're going to do that. It's none of that happening at all. Have the conversations about trying to make things different, yes, by all means. And that's some work that was undertaken by our competitive participation committee of the Board of Bowls Victoria, who went out and started the conversation. And that's all it was starting the conversation, putting the idea out there that, hey, we have to do something different to keep this going. because quite frankly, the commitment time in regard to I know what it's like right around the state with pennant competitions. It's a long stretch of time that you commit to play for your club, and that's great and it's honourable. We all want to play that format of competition, but it does take a large slice out of our time. So, because we know that people get pleasure out of playing pennant, we know they get pleasure out of playing championships and tournament bowls, and that's not going to go off the landscape. I can't see that. You've also got to be understanding that Bowls Victoria is committed to furthering the development of state representation in all areas of both playing and officiating. So we have to run relevant competitions, relevant events, where we can still build up our profile for our players and for our officials and coaches, because we want to keep that success going. You all saw recently, last month, the success that Australia had in the Commonwealth Games. I'm happy to say that there's quite a number of Victorians that featured heavily in that, and that's good for the sport. It's good for the individuals, but it's great for the sport. In all of this, we can aspire to achieve more if we have everybody on board and understanding why it's being done. Why are we doing it? There's a purpose behind why we're doing it, because we want to give people opportunity. And that opportunity can only come if you've got the associated events that they can play in to do that. And that starts at the basic grassroots in every club. How many people here in the room are a club champion in their club? Don't be embarrassed to put your hand up. Okay, so you started somewhere by playing a championship in your club, and then you won a title, and then you played in the Champion of Champions, and now you can go on and play in the National Champion of Champions, and if you win the National Champion of Champions, you go to the World Champion of Champions. So there's pathways within the sport to progress your skills, and you progress your skills knowing that the sport is behind you. You're not doing this, just for the sake of it. You're doing it because you want to better yourself. So as a sport, we have to provide those opportunities. So yes, Bowls Victoria formed a competitive participation subcommittee. That's already been done. That was formed last year. And they're already looking at new initiatives. How we can regenerate interest into the traditional offerings. How we can look at being a little bit more inventive with some offerings that come off of that. But what we need engagement from everybody. And these aren't threats to stopping it, it's about trying to improve it and improve the offering. Because we can't attract the focus and the outside interest to promote our sport because that product doesn't do it. We can do that internally, and we'll praise everybody and promote everybody and show everybody on live streaming that we possibly can to push that message through to the people that we're already engaged with. But we know from the feedback that we've had already is that doesn't resonate with the public, the general public. Because guess what? There's about 107 different sports that are all trying to get this focus on their sport. And if you try to get something in the paper in the AFL season in Melbourne, forget it. I don't know if you noticed that, but from March till about October, it's dominated by things like football, cricket, major big sporting events, Grand Prix, horse racing. Pardon? Oh, I'm not going to touch that one. It'll probably rate pretty big on the TV tonight, though, I think. So what we're saying is Bowls Victoria stands very, very proudly on its record of inclusiveness by providing opportunities and supporting all the groups that are engaged with bowls, and it will continue to do that. We've got a team this weekend in Perth in the Multi-Disability National Championships, kitted out in the Bowls Victoria state uniform, assisted to get there and get back by Bowls Victoria. We did it 2 weeks ago at the National Blind Bowls Championships, which were held at Nurulbark, We do it for all the groups, the over 60s, the bowling arm team, the state team, the junior team. So we're inclusive of everybody, because really they're all registered members of our association and they're all entitled to receive that support to pursue their goals. Because we get a little bit of kudos out of that too, you know. We can brag. We get bragging rights. The Australian National Sides Championship was won by the Victorian men in Darwin a fortnight ago. The women got runner-up. And if you've looked at our website, you would have seen that. So the second goal in this is to support our clubs. We want to develop strong, viable clubs through employing best practice governance and supporting an engaged volunteer network, because guess what? Without the volunteers at all levels of the sport, our sport just doesn't exist. It'll stop. We'll get into a little bit of that in detail. So how can we assist to develop strong, viable clubs and employ best practice governance to support the engaged volunteer network? For us, as bowls in Victoria, the sport in Victoria, we've got to remain a viable community sporting alternative. And the only way forward for its future prosperity, ladies and gentlemen, is to have a strong and viable club, division and region network that's committed to delivering the strategically aligned issues and obligations that we have under our new strategic plan. Because these will be what benefit our sport. Together, not just the board or the staff or a region or a division or a club or a handful of members can deliver that. We've got to do it all together because there's strength in the numbers. We've got to adopt some best practice governance at all levels, and that'll actually give us better opportunity to be able to run our businesses. Because we are businesses, we do generate funds, we do spend money, we do things to try and benefit our members. So to think that we're not a business is probably not to take it seriously enough. We've got to be able to position these businesses to be able to address most of the situations that may arise and meet some minimum standards for compliance. Because if we aren't meeting some minimum standards for compliance and something happens, guess what? You can be left in a very, very embarrassing situation. How can we assist to develop these strong and viable clubs? Like most community sporting clubs and organisations and associations, there's a very, very heavy reliance on the support of volunteers to deliver our sport. It's as plain as the nose on your face. If we don't have the volunteers doing that, we are dead in the water. There's a saying sometimes I see on trucks when I'm driving along, and on the back of big semi-trailers it says, "Truckies carry this country, without trucks Australia will stop." When you think about it, the amount of goods and services that are undertaken in that method, it's pretty relevant, isn't it? So what I'm saying here is, without our volunteers to deliver our sport, we come to a grinding halt. Because the sporting association, as Bowls Vic, we're not resourced or staffed well enough to be in control of 517 clubs around Victoria, 16 regions and 25 divisions, and then do all the other stuff that we have to do. So that heavy reliance, and I've got to say, thank God for the volunteers that do the work that they do to keep our clubs providing opportunities for others.
There's a saying, volunteers don't have time, they have heart.
Yep, that's true. If you want to get something done, you always go to a hard-working volunteer, don't you? Because you know that they're going to do it. There are people that like to volunteer for volunteering's sake, but there are other people who volunteer and do put a really strong foot forward in that area. Thanks, Jane. It's about recruiting, getting these people engaged, asking people if they want to become involved, tapping them on the shoulder, giving them an idea of what it is you're wanting them to get involved in, because quite often you might ask somebody, would you like to be on the committee of the West Gippsland Bowls Division? What do you want me to do? Well, if you can't tell them, how are you going to get engaged? Because the last thing they want is when they do say yes, you spring some things on them that they never thought they were going to be having to do or asked to do. So you have a clear indication of what it is that you want them to contribute, and then you'll get probably a better engagement from that person because they know exactly what it is that you're asking them to do. And you target certain people for certain skills that they've got too. I think that's very, very important, that you get people there that are willing to contribute and have some experience too, some life experience. That's a key in all of this. And then it's about recognising them. Now, the hardest thing you think is to get them. You've got them. What do you do when you've got them? When you've got volunteers, what do you do when you've got them? Somebody? Wrap them in cotton wool. No, I want them working for me, Marge. I want them, if I've got volunteers and they're willing to work, I want them working for me. But what we're going to do is we're going to recognise them. And we're going to recognise their contribution. So a few years ago, Bowls Victoria introduced a Club Volunteer of the Year award. But unfortunately, not a lot of people engage in it because they're too frightened to say that somebody in a club did something that was more beneficial to the club than somebody else. So we need to know all about these people because guess what? It's the local divisions and regions that will have the final nomination on that. We don't. We just pick the state winner out of the region winners. Don't we, Alan? Correct. And it's about getting that uptake. If there's a good story to tell about somebody, for God's sake, tell them. Last year's winner, I think, was the lady that came to the annual general meeting on crutches. She wasn't in a very good place health-wise, but she'd done a lot of work to help her club, the local club, and then when it came to the actual recognition, she was there on the day under fairly extreme personal circumstances. But that message down the bottom, volunteers are the group who give so much to enable so many to enjoy their game. Because without the volunteers, who runs the game on any given day? If you've ever been in a club where there's no organisation and you're running a social, say a turkey triples day, and no one's in the bowls office with any real authority or leadership, what happens? Anarchy reigns, doesn't it? Well, I'm not playing with him because I don't like him, and I don't want to play with her, and I don't want to play on a ditch rink, and I don't want to do this, and I don't want to do that. It becomes, organised chaos virtually. So the volunteers that step in and do that sort of work are the unsung heroes for our sport. And our third goal in our strategic plan is about strengthening connections, enhancing our community profile. And that's got to be through effective communication, positive media presence, and commercial growth. So in communicating positively and effectively, with the messaging that defines that everything we do stems from the focus on not just our end users, but also promotes the people that contribute or assist to making it happen. Once again, going back to that common theme about recognising the people that are doing the work. And it's building a profile and a brand that represents bowls as a fun, united and purposeful sporting activity. How many times do you see on TV, a current affair did it a few weeks ago when they were talking about the superannuation business with the federal government? The first thing they did was went to a bowls club. Yes, there are a lot of superannuants that play bowls, but there are also a hell of a lot of people that aren't, and they don't get exposure in that area. So in order to get some relevance in society, we also have to look at how our sport is portrayed. And that's a challenge ahead for us in regard to building that profile and having a bit of a conversation with media and saying, hey, how about presenting the whole of bowls, which is from 3 to 103. We know we've got a connected community that spans 100 years. So let's tell the whole story and not just focus on certain parts of it. So we're going to be further developing some of the initiatives that have already been undertaken that have raised our media awareness, and then we're going to be working on capitalising that commercial opportunities that can come from that. How many people here watched the live streaming of the State Pennant Championships? How many people knew it was on the internet? You were there, Steve. Yes, I remember. So these are different things that the sport's done in such a short space of time. Like 2 or 3 years ago, this wasn't even something that was on our easel or on our drawing page. But it's something that was an opportunity that arose, and the sport has taken that, because what it does, it increases our ability to get our messaging out there. And people that can't even attend these events can still stay connected because they can watch it as it's virtually happening. And the other thing in this is also about adopting technology change. Because this, people, is a very, very serious part of how we take the sport forward. There's been a lot of change in this area over a number of years. There has been a whole sport platform that has been in operation since 2013, and there are moves to change that. And if that does occur, we need everybody to embrace that change and become involved in it, because if you don't, we get left behind. If we get left behind, then it questions your relevance in the sporting landscape. The greatest revolutionary change in our sport, I think, has been the connection through social media. How many people here know that their clubs use social media to engage people to play in social barefoot bowls, or they do their pennant selections and notify everybody through Facebook or Instagram or whatever, and clubs' websites have become information lockers there for people to tap into? That's how the sport has changed. I can remember back 1978, we used to go into the bowls club and there was a whole wall dedicated to memos from the RVBA or the VLBA in the day. And guess what? No one took any notice of it. No one read the notice board. It was nearly a waste of time. But now, I was out for dinner the other night with about 8 people, and 7 of them, while we were eating, were on their mobile phones, looking at information. So it's all about, today's connectedness is instantaneous. It's not about waiting to get that information sent to you in a hard copy. It's about just pressing on a button or getting notified that there's a message in your inbox or an SMS to say that something is happening. So that's how we've got to adopt to technology change, because if we see it as being threatening and not wanting to accept change, we could potentially miss out on big opportunities. Rob?
Richie, I think that's probably one of the sort of little benefits that we as a sport have actually gained from all this social participation in our clubs. Because we all know that one of our biggest challenges in recent times has been the perception that the sport's a game for old people. So with so many people actually being able to get roles, whatever it may be, that perception is slightly starting to change now, and it's seen as being an option that young people can play. Albeit at the social level, that's great, we've got to start somewhere. But one of the other benefits of that is all those people are actually connected by these social experiences. We play social volleyball to XYZ, we had a fun birthday, whatever. So I mean that itself is one of the sort of, how we say, one of the sort of little benefits that we are getting from all this social participation.
Absolutely.
And probably, as I was reading earlier, one of the areas that I think we can probably tap into is the school to try to promote that connectedness within the world.
And that's part and parcel of what a new platform will deliver. It will deliver the ability for us to push notify people directly to their device. But what it does need is it needs a connectedness from every person who is a person of future connection. They have to accept it. They have to give their consent to be able to be notified. It's not anymore so much about being threatened by it. It's being choosing in what you wish to receive. Because I'm being surveyed virtually twice a week now by people who've got my mobile number saying, giving me a pre-poll about potential future election that's coming up, and I'm getting it from the Liberal Party, I'm getting it from the Labor Party, I'm getting it from the Greens, everybody. They bring you up and ask for your opinions about the polling, trying to understand what the current situation is. That's the society we live in now. Everybody's got a thirst for information straight away. And guess what? You still can't beat the Bowls grapevine. It still works the best. It might not be the most accurate, but it's still the one that everybody's tuned into. But it's all about your willingness to be able to accept and give that tick that you want to be able to receive the information. And that's something that we're still struggling with, because a lot of people haven't given their individual consent to us to be able to connect with them. Gary. We've got some resources internally at Bowls Victoria that you're most welcome to ask us for, how to set up a Facebook account. Rob?
We're Rob from Geelong, and last year, this last season, we set up some recording with assistance from Calvin Rogers.
Yep.
And we had him down for a review and have a clear plan, and everyone was happy with it. But while he was there, the Sports TG program it's a generic sports program. And he said for $2 for every bowler in Australia, to put in $2 extra on their affiliation, you can have an up-to-date self-recording program that do just everything. Well, Victoria thought about going that long.
That's part of a national whole of sport initiative. We have committed to that. But when it happens, well, you'll be the first people to know. But as yet, we've committed to go forward with a technology change, but we just haven't seen the final product yet that we're going to be signing up for. There will be change. There will be change come through the landscape. What that change will look like, it'll probably be another exercise in doing another database for the sport, but the benefits of the add-ons that are included in that package may be that everybody's got a much more intimate connection through their association to the sport. Pat?
What's the timeline on that?
Oh, look, I've got no idea because the process is stalled at the national level. There are only a couple of states that have committed to go forward with it at the moment. There was a hope that that could be in chain by June the 30th this year. We don't see that happening at the moment. So we would think that it would be changed in 2019. Hopefully it will be in 2019. Don't be frightened of technology change. Who would have thought 25, 30 years ago you could be sitting on the lounge with your feet up and you just press a button and change the channel, change the volume, hook up to Netflix, talk to Google Home who tells you what the weather is, what the traffic's like on your way to work. These are the sort of things that are driving society, technology change. We're either up with it or we're behind it. But if you're behind it, you do then start to lose a little bit of connectedness and relativity to what's going on in society because there's a thirst for it. Surprisingly, when we were talking to Gemba in the sports marketing area, the highest level of connectedness to social media and a lot of other platforms is in the age category above 65. Just think about that. Where's most of our bowling membership lie? Probably in that age bracket. And there's a greater connectedness to that in society than what there is with even young kids. Surprisingly. I was shocked by that piece of information that we received because that was the first thing a lot of people were saying. Oh, the bowlers won't do it. Well, guess what? They might. We're just underestimating their ability and capacity to be able to adopt to the change. But there are people out there who still think the world might be flat. And that why don't we have a magazine anymore? And why don't we do this and why don't we do that? Well, times have changed and we've moved on. And we've moved on to try and remain relevant in the current climate. So we can't refuse to implement it. If that's a decision that the sport takes that we want to move forward in the technology area, that's a decision that the sport takes because we think it's going to benefit the sport and the participants and the clubs and the divisions and the regions. Because there's opportunity here to become a lot more instantaneous without having to wait. Because people are saying they want it. So the importance of commercial growth for our sport, that remains a priority at all levels. National, state, it's probably even happening at local club level. You know, you've got sponsors of your local clubs, you want to keep those sponsors, you want to get new ones. Divisions have got sponsors, regions have got sponsors. Those partnerships and relationships, though, they have to be worked at. They just don't occur and roll over time without, guess what? The relationship partner or the sponsor wanting to understand what's in it for them. Do we really support our business partners and sponsorship people to the extent that we should? Or do we just take their money and say thank you very much, or their product or their support? There has to be a return in it for them as well. We've got to focus on that because that's how it works. We're not the AFL, but everybody uses them as an example that their marketing is their promotion of their brand, and the promotion of their brand is then the benefit of that back through to the sport. Would love to stand here and say that we've got a $1.2 billion TV rights deal. I can't say that. But the sport is trying, it's endeavouring, and its ability to try and attract people to invest in the sport, but you've got to have the products that they want to connect with. And a program like Bowling with Babies, I think many people here, who's aware of the Bowling with Babies program? You all should be because it's been heavily promoted. You'd love to think that if Johnson & Johnson came on board with that, we had baby powder sponsoring our Bowling with Babies program. It's just common sense and plain. But you've got to have an identifiable product that they can connect with and make it's a business decision that they make, and it's about what's in it for them, it's what's in it for us. More and more bowls clubs are promoting and delivering meaningful opportunities. That's for their communities to engage in bowls, with revenue generated through partnerships, enabling much of this to be achieved. I know of one club who runs a barefoot bowls program with a barbecue, and they went and got the local butcher to supply the meat for the barbecue. Bang, no-brainer. Benefit is, he tells the people when they attend the barefoot bowls night, I've got chops on special this week or snags on the weekend. Go and visit your local butcher. Don't go to the supermarket to buy your meat. Go and support your local sponsor, because that way then they see the benefit of the relationship that they have with the club through the activity. Support and recognition for partners and sponsors is essential to maintaining and fostering those relationships, because if there's nothing back to them, they'll seriously consider whether they get involved the next time. It's great when you get a sponsor who reports back to you and says, our dealings with you have been great because you've promoted us. We're seeing the benefits. We're seeing people come to our area. We're seeing decreased vacancy rates in our accommodation because people are coming back, and when we're asking them how they heard about us, they said through bowls. So that's how you keep those relationships and those partnerships working. You're trying to give them back a benefit because they've given you a benefit. I scratch your back, you scratch mine. Now the last page of our strategic plan focuses on the fact that there's people on there having fun. We're connected through our schools. We're connected through our players who are working in the developed pathways. There's young Tiffany Brody up there. We had a group of ladies who came over to play in the Vic Open from Thursday Island. So why not promote them? Why not give them a little bit of exposure? Most people probably wouldn't even know that they play bowls over there. I think they also were the beneficiaries of getting a ripped up green from Moama Bowling Club taken to their location. Our wheelchair bowler, the fella in the fluoro vest. Fluoro is not very flattering, is it? It's a pretty common occurrence. But one of our tradies bowlers, And then we've got our family there, the Davies, who are all connected into the sport now. That's a little bit of an older photo, but young girl there's grown up quite markedly now, probably changed club too. But in general terms, ladies and gentlemen, our strategic plan has been developed as the document that is going to guide us and direct us in how we connect with the Victorian bowls landscape for the next 4 years. I welcome now any further discussion, but present that plan to you on behalf of the Board of Bowls Victoria. Thank you.